Good evening. I'm David Verscher, and I'm here to talk to you about Project Graceland, which is a citizen buyout for failed nation states. A few numbers here just to give some context to our discussion. I got all these from the IMF and the World Bank. So right now, you can split the world into two groups. There are about 2.5 billion people living in free market style high growth economies, and about 4.5 billion people living in what can be sort of loosely described as corrupt low growth economies. And if you look at just the share of the world's GDP, 78% of the world's GDP comes out of these high growth economies, and that's about $60 trillion. And then these corrupt low growth economies have about 17% or about 22%, 17 trillion or 22% of the world's GDP. So the idea here is to move about 64% of the world's population into free market, high growth economies, which effectively gives about 4.5 billion people a $21,000 a year raise. And over the next 50 years, using the magic of compound growth, creates around $200 trillion of world GDP. And that's about 10 economies the size of the United States, all doing cool, amazing things like curing disease and making awesome products to make our lives better and coming up with scientific discoveries to solve all the big problems of the world like climate change and disease. So how are we going to do that? Well, the plan here is to take part Carl Icahn and part Gandhi. So it's to combine shareholder activism with human flourishing and do what's called a citizen buyout for failed countries. For those of you who don't have a big financial background, a buyout works like this. You come in, you make a list of the assets, figure out what's there that has any value. You fire the existing management because they've screwed everything up. You throw a little bit of money at the company to kind of get it going again. You get some new managers who hopefully have a better idea how to run things. And then you get all the existing employees involved and you get them participating and you try to keep as many of their jobs as possible. So with the citizen buyout, it's kind of the same idea except for a country. So you create a national blockchain and then you figure out what's valuable in the country. You ICO a new national currency backed by natural resources. You take the control of the currency away from the failed government, so it's effectively firing the management, airdrop a bunch of tokens to people to get them restarting the economy and sort of trading with each other, and that's effectively recapitalizing the place. And then you outsource management to people who actually know how to run things via voluntary smart contracts. So effectively, maybe you go either hire competent locals or people from, bureaucrats from Japan or Canada or wherever, and you just get them to come in and run the place in a way that, doesn't loot everything and create chaos. The logical initial target for this idea is Venezuela. They have 7,000% inflation, 65% of the population is starving. It's a humanitarian disaster. They're like roving gangs of children with machetes that are hacking each other to death to steal garbage. It's a complete, utter, and total mess. The politicians are stealing everything as fast as they can because they know their time's coming to an end, so they're just taking whatever they can before the lights go out. But Venezuela is actually kind of a cool place because they have $15 trillion of gold and oil reserves, which is a lot of money to go and recapitalize and restart a country. So here's what we plan to do. Use the EOS framework to create an ICO and airdrop tokens to people, create government services via smart contracts, and use the EOS Constitution to create the underpinnings of a voluntary political economy, and then provide the EOS arbitration framework to resolve disputes within the country. So when you combine investment and freedom, you get a bunch of cool stuff that happens. You encourage more innovation, you create more growth. Because you place a premium on investment, you redistribute wealth around the country, and you start pushing money to people that are actually going to use it and do something useful and interesting with it. And using the arbitration framework, you create low-cost access to justice. So if somebody feels like they got ripped off or they're not happy, then they can really quickly settle that and get on with their lives. So the goal here is to unlock $200 trillion of global value over the next 50 years. Um, I only had 5 minutes here, so I went through this really quick. If you want to read more, there's a 40-page white paper at projectgraceland.com, or come find me afterwards and we'll chat. Thanks so much.